before you as the grown-up, all of those sorts of things. Who wishes anything that is horrible, really?
Uncomfortable, or it's not
testing. It is all of that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've been able to come to peace with that for me. And I'm not imposing that on anyone.
Yeah.
Because that's your story, that's your gift, that's your chalice, that's all of that for you to resolve within you.
Yeah.
And through the various filters that you have, and through the various strategies that you have that support you through that. Because even when you're in absolute crisis, in that depth of despair, on the cusp of something one way or the other, you can opt in, you can opt out. All of those are available to us. For me, it's like who I surround myself with.
Yeah.
What comes then into my awareness when I sit in that pain, in that depth of despair moment, that helps me. It becomes like a little reminder and anchor. Sally, you're here.
Yeah.
You have the next breath available to you. What can you now choose and be? There are times for sure that I feel some of us have taken on the worries of the world. And I'll come back to another question that we may have time for later on to expand on that, because when we're talking about how we navigate that and what we then impart to others by way of mentorship and coaching and all of those sorts of things, this becomes really key. But for me, it's just to really be true to me, and no comparison to anybody else.
Yeah. So
it's almost like you're flying solo.
Yes, absolutely. So, has there been any point where you can see, and you can see the red lights or the green lights, but you've been stuck to a point and then life has taken over and said, enough, Sally, this is what needs to be done? Because it's happened many times in my life where, even though I've seen the signals, I've seen the red lights, the green zones, the orange zones, and all the colors being shown, and sometimes right in your face as well, and I've still gone ahead and ignored it, and some certain situation for me, it took me 11 years to realize, no, enough was enough. There is nothing more you can give to it. There is nothing more you can feed into it. There is nothing more, you can do to make it stay alive. So for me, then life took over, and it was like, enough. We've given you all that space, all that energy, all that warning. It's not happening. So here, let us guide you. Let us take it over from you. And, now you just be in the flow. It's like literally a river, which, wherever the river takes you, you go.
And you're on the raft rather than sitting on the rock in the middle watching it all being pounded. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So has that
for sure happened? Several really. What immediately comes to mind is when I was 9 years old, and I, as the oldest living in Holland, was invited to go to English classes with my parents, and at some point coming to the realisation that we were embarking on a one-way ticket out of Holland into this place called Australia, wherever it was on the planet. And there's actually a talk that I've done about that, a TED talk, which is really interesting, TEDx talk, which highlights that part of me. It's not who I am now, however. It reminds me of all of the things that I valued then was being magic. So I had magical characters that I would talk with because no one else could understand my point of view in my world. I could share my feelings with. I externalized that, I ventured, if you like, into very safe spaces. And they came with me on this global adventure, if you like, back then. And they still travelled with me this time as well in various forms and constructs, and we play well together.
Yeah.
So knowing that you have the resources, whatever they are, and the make-believes and, the whole Winnie the Pooh story, love it, where Christopher Robin grows up and is taken back for that reason. Those defining moments where you get this reality check needing to happen because life could not sustain the momentum of the trajectory you think you were destined to be, and all of a sudden it brings you back in alignment with your true north, whatever that is. And that's unique to you as well.
Yeah.
obviously. So that was one thing, going across the world learning English out of necessity, entering into a grade 4 when you hadn't learned all the grammars and things from a grade 1, or even the dialogue in English sort of thing. English is a very hard language to learn as a second language, may I say. And then another one, I guess, when I finished high school, I was awarded a scholarship to go to Japan for a year, and I lived there. That's why I went back to Japan in my last trip. Was to go back home there. So home for me is various places.
Yeah.
And it was a critical time for me because I had 7 different host families there that then I reconnected with in a next generational way. This time to actually, okay, what did that teach me? What did I learn from that? How was that different from my original birth family scenario? And so have that piece. And then the family that I birthed myself.
Yeah.
4 beautiful children, now adults, you know, living dynamic lives globally, 2 in the UK now, you know, 1 in the States and 1 who's still in Australia. Yeah. So all of those things are defining moments. But the most critical thing for me, though, was the heart repair. I had a heart issue 5 years ago. And that one I don't believe I saw coming. But there was a lot of things now looking back on it that I can attribute to the lead up to it, which would not have made sense. And in a way, I think life protects us too, because had I known that was coming, like we know anything's coming, like a motor vehicle accident or anything like that, for me, had I attempted to prepare myself for that, I would have missed the clues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely.
So life is the driver in many ways. You know, when we think we have the hands on the steering wheel, yes, we do. However, life is the vehicle that we drive. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, do we service it? Do we maintain it? Do we listen to the noises and the bubbles and the squeaks and all of those sorts of things? Do we fill it with the right fuel? Do we give it a rest? Do we park it in a safe space? Do we all of those sorts of things? That's the external vehicle for us to be human in this life. It's a metaphor. There are other versions of that for me.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautifully put. So how has your personal experiences in life helped you to shape and be the person you are today? And would you say that, you know what, it's been a great journey so far?
It's been a magical journey, really. I'm still standing.
Yeah.
You know, and forever grateful for all of it. I'm still in dialogue with everyone in my life that has ever had a creationship scenario with me. You know, so burning bridges doesn't exist for me.
Yeah.
You know, cutting the apron strings. You know, how do we disconnect from something that gave us life? How do we, disconnect from something that has allowed us to actually stop and pause and reflect and realign, recalibrate, rejig, rejuvenate, all of those sorts of things.
Or even contribute, you know, whether it's in a painful way or, you know, a non-painful way, a little bit of contribution, you know, how do you literally deny that and say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with that aspect of my life anymore in today's time? Because again, when you deny something from your past, you're taking away the lesson, you're taking away the, you know, the creation which made you reach where you are today.
Hence where I get back to that whole cutting cords, letting go scenario. That construct for me doesn't fit. It's not because you're separating one aspect of your life or experience from another. And I know, again, there'll be those who will dispute this because it's one of those things.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's so okay. For me, this is how I thrive. Yeah. I'm thriving now because what I know works for me is that when I embody things into my heart, I make peace with that. And I love it innately. And it becomes that amazing attribute of me that why would I not value it?
Yeah. And then that's just Sally's way. You know, it doesn't have to be anybody else's way. It's just Sally's way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to know now, though, that I don't believe I'm alone in this.
Yes.
You know, we were talking earlier before we started this conversation about the collective consciousness expanding.
Absolutely.
And no one is excluded from that. Yes, some might kick and buck and scream and throw tanties and do all sorts of other things, you know, acrobat a way around.
Yeah.
And some you know, may make different choices, and that's so personal for them. And so many things that are coming out right now may or may not warrant the intensity of discussion that is currently arising. Isn't that interesting?
It is absolutely interesting. And, you know, like you said, when we were having the conversation before we started recording, it's like, you know, the lessons are there for everybody to learn, you know, and according to each person's awareness, the lessons will be learned, but perhaps not on a collective conscious at the same level. For me, I'm always a believer, so my belief, and I hope and pray that, you know, the collective consciousness to elevate us is a little higher than the people who are still kicking and screaming and saying no, 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 no to anything which is changing, because this is just my personal belief. You know, when we kick and scream